This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a double top 16 breakdown. There were two events in Europe for the Ultimate Cup format this past weekend. One in webcam, so this is Rate and Trade's one, as well as one in person. So this was an Italian by Game Trade, the Italian company. So that is what we have for you guys today. It took a lot of work to get these deck lists and put them up, so if you guys appreciate it, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and check out Eggman Events. I think it's getting pretty collated with a bunch of deck lists, especially for the Ultimate Cup format. So it's a double one, so I'm going to go over both events real quickly, and then just the top placing archetype between the two events, because we'd be here all day otherwise. But going into the webcam one, so again, this is the Rate and Trade one. We did have 5 Bloomlords, 3 Merva, 2 Blue Flare, 2 Machinedramons, a Gallant, a DarkKnight, a Dorbick, and a Yellow Hybrid. So pretty much, like, I've been going over a couple events for this format as well, and I think Bloomlord is definitely, if not the best, it's the popular pick for a lot of things. Merva and Blue Flare and Machinedramon, I think all 4 of these are pretty much what a lot of people are playing in a lot of ways, and they're seeing a lot of success with, and then a bunch of singletons right there as well. And then going over to the Italian in-person event, we do see, again, these 4 just pop up right here again. Bloomlord, Blue Flare, Merva, and Machinedramon. A lot more singletons in this one. We had a Machinedramon, an Ulforce, a BlackWarGrey X, which is actually interesting to see that this deck can compete in this format too. A Gabu-Bond, a Dorbick, a Grandis, and a Yellow Hybrid as well. This one I wasn't able to get all the deck lists. I was missing 2, so sorry about that. One's Bloomlord, so probably not too much of a miss for that one. Yellow Hybrid, I probably would have liked to see that one. So anyways, those are the archetypes. That's a quick breakdown for us, and let's get started into a couple of these deck lists. We have, I think, 12 to go over today, so let's just kind of get started with the first one for the this is for Rate and Trades. So this is the Blue Flare here, and we've been seeing a lot of Blue Flare, and I think it's just kind of like a default blue archetype. I think there was a couple in contention there. I think Ulforce, a lot of people thought was the strong one, but this deck is really, really strong, and it kind of mimics what I remember as like the blue hybrid format and the blue hybrid deck. Before this, I don't think Blue Flare was doing a lot. It did get some final invite tops in the BT11 meta for all the finals around the world, but I think this is a really good format for the deck in general. There's a lot of strong kind of possibilities for it. You do miss out on the triple tamer, but man, Sorajo is such an annoying card when it goes off. Sorai is great for what you're doing. I think it has a good round matchup for a lot of decks in the format, and the only thing is that it is a bit of a you have to find the pieces deck, but since there's also mulligans in this game for this format too, I think it's very strong there. So nothing else too silly there. Hammer Spark, I think, is like one of the weirder cards. We don't see that a lot, and only one hybrid. I would probably want to try to run 2 if I could. So especially since we're so tamer based, and since we really need to just try to go in for our last turn, I think it makes sense, especially for playing Sorajo, and like we can get the extra 2 memory off this really easy just to play the tamer or the hybrid itself. That's the only thing I would say I would want to change from this, but I think this is a really strong deck right now, and probably the best blue deck that we have going into this format. Next up, we have the first place from the other event, and so this is a Bloomlord. We've been seeing Bloomlord a lot. Again, Bloomlord was definitely the deck that was really good in BT11 standard. That was just a monocolor deck as it is, so not having to change literally anything and still be a viable deck means that it is a contender for this format in general. It does have pretty much all the things it wants to do still. It's green, you go up your ramp, you go wide with the vegetations and plant stuff, and then you use like Hydramon to go off for Bloomlord. There is a nice little tech of the Lilamon here for Digiburst, which can be helpful, especially with the Weedmon to be able to get the suspension, but also get the extra memory to go up your plays. So I do like that. Obviously, there's a lot of Digisorption anyways, but I think that's strong. And you do have to worry about a little bit of like aggressive decks. So Grandel Soul at 1 there, Santi at 2. But I think everyone probably has their ideas for how they think how good Bloomlord is right now. And I think it's good. I think it's strong for this format. And I would also say, again, like this probably the strongest and most consistent green deck that we have right now. Next up, we have Machinedramon, and this is a deck that has been doing a lot better than I thought it would. Machinedramon kind of got like some tops in the finals format for BT11, not a lot, but it got close. It got really close in a lot of ways, and It's hard to know if that's just because of the format or if it's a case where people need to figure out their ratios, because Machinedramon is definitely a deck where everyone's going to build it differently. There's just so much creativity spots open for this one compared to others, just because you're kind of just restricted to level 5 machines a lot for a lot of these kind of fill spots, and you get to do the ratios and the picks that you kind of want for this one. So in general, though, Chaosdramon with Analog Man on board, especially like 1 or 2 plus, it feels really great. It feels really great to be the Machinedramon player. You don't necessarily win very quickly with this deck, but if you're able to establish your Chaosdramon, there's a lot of decks in this format that just simply can't get over this. They can't interact with it, and you just kind of end up winning because of it too. There's not a lot of removal. The only removal is like a Digivolve, which doesn't happen as often as it would in this format too, so I think that's strong there. And if you want to do well against this deck, you have to have something that gets around Chaosdramon, and I think that's something you have to adapt if you don't like this deck. And if you can't get around this deck, I don't think you're viable. I think this is at least a gatekeeper for the format in a lot of ways too. So this is Gabriele's second place finish, and congrats there. Next up, we have Edoardo's third place Gallantmon, and he got third place in both events with 2 different decks, which is actually really, really impressive. So we're going to go over both of their decks here, but this is the one for the Raid and Trade, the webcam event. So Gallantmon obviously is a deck that has a couple of benefits in this format. You do kind of want to have X antibody, but honestly, other decks use it better than this deck, so you're kind of okay without it. The fact that you can run the purple reds is really good for this as well, since you do get to go up your chains. This Wargroundmon is probably one of the better cards in this archetype still. Just being able to play your Tamer for free is really great. And the fact that it doesn't have to come from hand, you can mill it with its own effect, and if you've hit it from there, you get to play it. So just being as flexible as you can. And again, this is an archetype that kind of rides and dies on finding your Tocado most of the time. And so if you're able to consistently find it and see it and just get it on the board, it's great, especially since there's not as much Tamer destruction as there normally could be right now either. I think it's just very strong for you there. So get this out, and then we do have the Gallantmon from Star Deck, 3 of the X Antibody, and 3 Crimson Mode. Quite a few here, but Gallantmon is also one of the few decks that actually has a level 7 to go into, and so being able to use that to your advantage there, having like a big boss monster, even just having a 15k body that can be in your security is really strong. There's a lot of decks that like Ulforce that can't really beat hitting this in security, which is really funny. So you do have to be a little bit careful with that there, but I think it's a very, very strong deck if it goes off. Again, that's always the question. If it goes off, can it go off? But I think it's a strong one when it does. So congrats to Edoardo there. And then back to back, so the double night finish, running Ulforce, which you're just talking about. And I think a lot of people thought Ulforce was like the best blue deck to go to in this format. I still contend that Blue Flare, at least in the showings that we've been seeing, that Blue Flare is a little bit more consistent and present in these top 16s, because I definitely know that Blue Flare is being played. I know a lot of people are playing it, and as well as Ulforce. So but yeah, this is pretty standard for what it is, deciding to go for the Leomon package. So you are running the Jerrys. You're running 4 of them, which is quite a bit. And then you can use the Leomons. You can play them for free, get blocker, and just help you get your things there, especially since you can play Jerry for free off of the Ulforce effect, which means that you can get a Leomon out for free as well. So that's kind of strong. But by and large, I think the deck is pretty standard there. The only thing is these V-Tamer ties are really, really good for this deck. They're very strong, and the fact you can just play them for 2, I think, helps you with your extension plays, especially if you don't see Arena or you only see like 1 of them. So I think only 2 is a little bit short for it, but you still did get 3rd place with this deck, so you know what you're doing. I'm just a little bit surprised that there's only 2 of these V-Tamer ties. So anyways, congrats to both finishes for Edoardo there. Both 3rd places, just big congrats there. Next up, we do have Georgios 4th place DarkKnight, and this is probably my favorite deck in this format. This is probably the deck that I would try to grind the most in this one. I think it's just very strong for what it does. The fact that it does have inherent Tamer removal, the fact that it's really hard to has like a lot of good on deletions for like some recursion effects as well. All of that's very strong, and I kind of like that as part of the deck. So I think just in general, like the DarkKnightmon here, it says strictly for 4 you get to Digivolve something, and you get to play this card, and then you pop something with play cost of 5 or less. Like this is a really strong effect in its own way, right? And the fact we get to mulligan to maybe try to find this a second time. Like there's there's just times like this is just such a strong card for what it is. And then you can go into DarkKnight X Antibody, which this can delete Tamers. It can also delete your Nene if you need the extra memory. It's kind of a weird interaction, but it's strong there too. And it's just, this is a really good boss. But you're only running 2, so this is definitely more of kind of like a lower to the ground build of it, especially since you are running like this Montamon package. So not all of these are Twilights, unfortunately, but there's this one says when you play it, you get to look at the top card of your deck, and then on deletion, reveal the top 3, play 1 Montamon without paying its memory cost. So which means you can play either the BT7 or the BT10 one. This is like the good one, at least for the archetype, because you're able to look top 5 for your Twilight cards and your Nightmons and Deadly Axe mods. And then there's this one that just looks top 3 for 1 Nightmon or 1 Deadly Axemon. So like this one's just like strictly worse than this one, but just the fact that, and especially since this looks top 5 for 2 pieces and it has Twilight Industries, because I don't think this one does. I think it just has CRT in it. So but anyways, a really interesting build for that, since you do have a lot of targets for this to hit. You do get some like free recycle there, which I think is good, and then just kind of the rest of the package though. So congrats to Gregorio for their finish there, and then, or sorry, Georgios, sorry, my apologies, Georgios for their finish. And then we also have Marco here with their 5th place BlackWarGrey X. And this was a deck that I think a lot of people, including myself, just thought wouldn't exist in this format. And most of the reason is because you really, really want that X antibody most of the time, right? You get a lot of benefits for it, and it gets a lot of power for what you do. And all of these effects really kind of depend on you having that. Like there's the really good effects, right? For example, like the protection from Greymon X antibody means that you need to have the X antibody, which you can't run. And as well as like there's not as many like black Greymons. There are some, so we do have like the blocker ones really good, and then we'll also have like this BT2 one, which this has reboot against jamming, which is kind of nice for like your Gaiamon attacking, I suppose. That's kind of nice for it. And then you have like their Metal Gray X, and your Metal Greymon's still like a really good card when it goes off. Like again, a lot of effects don't get around digivolving right now. But it looks like it's just kind of a final Zubagon punch build of it as well. So we're using the promo BlackWarGreymon, which can be used to get a lot of attacks in very easily. And I think that can be strong. So it's just a really interesting build by and large. Again, it reminds me kind of more of like the traditional BlackWarGreymon, not necessarily the X builds. And it's just running this because why would you not run it in a deck like this where it can get a lot of advantage? So I do think you are missing, again, a lot of protection in this deck, and you're missing out on some level 7s because a lot of the level 7s can help you end the game. But otherwise, it looks really strong, and we'll have to see if any of these keep popping up in the next couple weeks. So that is 5th place for the Italian Game Trade event. And moving on, we do have Annog with their 6th place Dorbick. And Dorbick was a deck, it topped in both events. And this is really interesting to me because mostly these decks were pretty multicolor in a lot of ways. But it looks like there is enough for you to run the strict red package, which is really interesting. You do miss out on like a unsuspend as well. So you do have to just be like a big attack that keeps on going. But there's a lot of one-ofs in this deck. It's a very, very interesting build for that way. There's a lot of personal choices for this, and I'm not going to say I'm super qualified to go over how good this deck is, but I did see it in the North American finals and do well with the dual, being able to unsuspend, right? But being able to use these effects, like you do have like this Cure Attack +1s off the Master Tyrannomon, the Volk, and like the Greymon. You do also have like a bunch of effects, like when post Digimon is deleted, if this Digimon has an on-play effect, you get to gain a memory. So if on the on-play here, you get to do that too. So there's a lot of good effects that go on, and you get some cycle with the Heroes of the Skies and the Fireball. Hero here, no tie tamer, which is a little bit interesting, but it looks like you're getting like enough Secure Attack +1 as it is with all the effects you get. So just a really interesting build, and I'm surprised that Dorbick is still able to get some tops in this format too. Next up, we have Mervamon, and we're still like the top 6 territory. So this is Stefano's list from the Italian event, but Merv is probably one of my favorite decks in this format. It's best, at least for purple, which there isn't a lot, I think, of purple decks that are really viable right now, but it's really strong. I also want to say we do have like the Beelzemon Cups coming up, so I think this deck could actually be really good, or at least this archetype could be really good in those that format as well for people here in North America getting ready for those. But it's really nice for what you get to do, being able to go up your chain, being able to play Mervamon, and then if it gets deleted, you get to go into Merva from Minerva, and Ignite Mon, is strong. I like Lady Devi here, especially with the Nidhogg, where you can discard it to gain the memory back too. And there's a lot of different ways to build this. I think like the core cards are the same, but there's a lot of different techs that you could personally run for your own builds. And it looks like it's been very strong in a lot of ways. So I like the recursion from it, especially since like Mervamon being able to play this for cheap and then be able to get some retaliation blockers out, I think is very strong. And there's a lot of decks that really can't get around retaliation blockers very easily, which is kind of neat to see too. So that is Stefano's list there. Congratulations to them. We've got 3 more left. So we do have Luciano's 10th place Gabu-Bond, and this is a deck I really want to run for this format. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but when I saw the restrictions and saw that, like, you know, there's a little bit more openness to blue than just kind of like what we've been seeing, this is definitely the deck that I'm like, okay, this could be possible. Do we bring back Gabu-Bond? And it's really exciting to see that it did get a top here. It did get 10th place at the Italian event. So obviously you'd get a lot of benefits from the Mat Tamer, and so you have your Gabu-Bonds here. And if you're able to go into this guy, you're pretty good. Like this being able to do 2 attacks, 3 attacks with the inheritable here is strong. You don't have any ways to really give it security attack +1 in this format, so that kind of stinks a little bit. But I do like running the Leomon package there. I'd almost want to say like this seems a little bit slim on your hybrids here, only running 5, but that can be strong, especially like Tommy's only at 1, which is a little bit rough, but you can still make it work. So Tommy with Kumamon can still get like a good stun, I think, on a couple of things. Jerry being able to get like more bodies out and get your recursion there. And I think the only thing is like you have to be careful. Like you have to do enough little chip damage where the Gabu-Bond can win you the game and go from there. But just the fact that this deck also runs a 14k in your security, like high DP in security is actually a little bit stronger than it usually is right now too. So I think that's a big boon for the deck. Howling Memory Boost, also just being able to get that stun, Blue Mem Boost, Hammer Spark, and Ice Wall. So hopefully your opponents aren't playing any like Gazimons or Memory Stoppers, because this deck is pretty susceptible to it seems. But other than that, it looks really fun, and I'm happy Gabu-Bond did get a top here. So next up we have Yellow Hybrid. We only got 1 Yellow Hybrid here. This is Mohamed's build of it. And the other one from the Italian Cup I do not have at the moment. But this is really cool, especially because it's using the Lotmon package as well. So with the Suzy, you're able to unplay a Lotmon from your hand. And at the start of your turn, if you have 3 or fewer security, you get to draw 1 as well. So being able to get that recursion here. The Lotmons are pretty good rookies for what they are as well. This helps you draw cards and regulate your security. This one also lets you have a recovery too, which is quite nice. I like the maid mode as well. So this is a bit of this card never saw a lot of play here in North America, but when digivolving, you may use one option card with plug in its name, or that is yellow with a memory cost of 5 or less from your hand without meeting its color requirements or paying its memory cost, and you place the option card on top of your security, essentially. So you can use like Holy Wave, and then you can put a Holy Wave on top of your security, right? Or you can use Sunrise Buster and then put Sunrise Buster on top of your security. So like that seems pretty good to me on on Devolution, especially since you can digivolve on top of another level 6 for only 2. So all of that seems really strong. I like what you're able to do for it, and it just seems like a neat little tech that can pay off a lot of the time. So Yellow has a lot of good options that can be put into top of your security, and there's not as much like burn damage in the game right now with this format, so that can also like double up there. So anyways, congrats to Mohamed on their finish there. And then lastly, we do have a single Grandis between the 2 events. We've been seeing Grandis do top a couple of our more casual events leading up to the cups here in North America, and this is Filippo's 13th place from the Italian event. And you do miss out on Grandis being Grand Kawagamon at 4, but you do get a lot of benefits, especially from like the just having the name is good enough, because you can have Grand Kawagamon there. And I've been seeing a lot of people put the Kawagamon here from BT1. That does just give a security attack +1 to anything with level 6 or higher. You do have to digivolve it for 1 on top of a rookie, which kind of stinks, but man, its security attack +1 is really all you really need for this deck, and being able to give it to your Grandis is great. So Grand Kawagamon does have security attack +1, but it's just on this card, so if you digivolve on top of it, you don't get to keep it, but you do get to keep the when digivolving +4k if you're able to keep it your turn, meaning this is like a 20k, which means it can hit over literally everything, which is crazy. So If you are kind of worried about Machinedramon, I think this deck can have a potentially good matchup against it, especially before they set up and you're able to get into your bigger boys. And it's probably like a little bit slower than we're used to here in BT11, but I think it still has a lot of pressure, and it's something you definitely can't sleep on. If you think that, if you're going to this meta thinking that there aren't fast decks, there definitely are. They're just probably a little bit less consistent and not as OTK. I think they're more like 2 turn kills than 1 turn kills than what we see here in like regular BT11, but they're definitely still around, which is interesting to see as well. Especially with this getting like the limit to 1, you'd think the deck wouldn't be played anymore, but they still find a way. So anyways, those are all the decks that we're going to go over today. Again, if you guys want to see any of them, they are going to be all on my website here on Eggman Events. So make sure to check that out. I've been putting a lot of effort to make this a good website. So if you have any feedback, let me know. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you appreciate it. Good luck on your own Ultimate Cups upcoming here in North America, and I'll catch you all next time.